Welcome to another episode of the Inspired in Berlin podcast. My guest today is Carla Feuerriegel. Carla is an ex-pharmacist manager, veterinarian, and runs her own traveling company under her name with the slogan Traveling in Essence. She's a passionate traveler and guide and animal lover who loves to share her knowledge not only of the animals but of everything she has learned from living and traveling out of the comfort zone. I had the pleasure of doing a little trip in Botswana, mainly with Carla. That's where we got to know each other, and everything I said in the intro, the passion, the knowledge, the wonderful presence is true. And hopefully, we will hear a lot more stories about that as well today. So, before we start, Carla, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Malak. I'm very excited to be here with you.
It's a pleasure. And let's start with a simple question. Who was Carla before she started all this travel, and how has she changed since?
Wow. Okay. Who was Carla? Carla has always been a girl, very excited with living, wanting to know, to share, to know what the world could offer. So before I started with traveling as a guide, I had always traveled with my parents. I had always been very, very active on trips. So before that, I come from a family where my parents have always wanted to learn from other cultures. So before I started traveling, as you introduced myself, I was an ex-manager of a pharmacist. I come from my mom is pharmacist, so I'm a single daughter, and life gave me the option of following the career, right? So during those years, I took care of my people, I took care of my pharmacy, and I was always taking care of patients, trying to give my best with the sanitary knowledge I had obtained from university. So that was the Carla before. While I was working on the pharmacy, I realized that I wanted to learn. I was very, very interested in knowing what life could offer me. So as I had always loved animals, I decided to study veterinary as the career. And during my veterinary course, I traveled to Africa. So that gave me the opportunity to realize that I had a special bond with the continent, with nature, with freedom, with animal behavior. And thanks to that, I decided to start working on a company. And during that time, as I started working as a guide on my holidays, I realized that that was my job. That was the job I really enjoyed the most, the job I really loved. And throughout life and throughout experiences, I realized that I should really put the focus on that and leave behind the other things that helped me to be where I was now.
And were there any defining moments or pivotal moments or experience that got you to start this full time?
I think that the last drop, I think life brings you lots of experiences that make you want to take decisions. But the last drop was when I lost my father, like 1 year and a half ago. He had always pushed me to follow my dreams, to live life, to enjoy with passion, to give my best, and to look deeper on what I was doing, not just for doing it not just to do it as you should live life, like expecting that the interesting things happen on the future, but to live the present, I give my best. So when my father had heart problems, and during that time, when life gives you the opportunity of saying goodbye many times, you really appreciate life. So he had a brain stroke, and during that month I was with him, taking care of him in Hamburg, in Germany, because my father was German. That's why I have this surname. It connected me with God, universe, call it as you want, and it made me feel that I was not alone, and that I should follow my dreams. And I promised my father before he passed away that I was gonna quit the pharmacy and follow my heart. And he was very happy for that.
Did you have any fear or doubts in this moment, or was it really okay? I do this now.
All. I had them all. It's incredible. I always explain the experience I went through, like if I'm gonna do pointing, like I'm gonna jump from a cliff. I've always feared heights. So fearing heights would be very similar to what I experienced when I decided to stop the pharmacy and business that works. The family pressure, the society pressure telling you you are crazy, you have a business that works, why are you gonna start doing something new? You have the perfect formula, you have money. All that pressure, it's like when they're telling you in 1 year you're gonna jump from a cliff, and that moment you are like scared, but you say okay, it's in 1 year. Then it's like in 6 months you're gonna jump from a cliff, and it's like okay, oh my god, 6 months, now it's getting closer, but okay, fine, because I have 6 months. On 1 month you're gonna jump from the cliff. And at that moment when I really sat down with my family, I really sat down with my friends to organize the project and to try to give a sense of what I wanted to do with the travel agency. It's like if I was from the cliff and the brain started telling me all the craziest things that could come to you. You're gonna you're gonna broke, like you're gonna, I don't know how to say it in English, like you're gonna not win money, who is gonna want to travel with you, you're crazy, you're selfish, everyone would love your life and you are deciding to do something different. It was crazy how the head can really try to protect you. At the end, it's a way of protecting you. When you go out of your comfort zone, it's like it comes into survival mode, and it's constantly hitting you. And when I decided I'm doing it, this is official, the sound stopped completely. It's just stopped. I said, okay, you won. Let's go for it. And it completely stopped. Like I never thought, I've never thought since then, even on very difficult moments, to go back to the pharmacy. It's incredible when you really hear to yourself and you really trust what you are doing, that once you are able to jump, the net is so strong that you never want to go back to the other life you had. Just to be grateful for what made you want to jump, and just to be grateful to all the knowledge you got to be in this certain moment.
Amazing. I wish that experience to a lot of people because working also on the coaching side, you see a lot of this, right? People have plans and inspiration, but oftentimes that comfort zone is comfortable enough, sometimes also painful, but it's comfortable enough to not go. And you're right, kind of there's this protection mechanism holding you back.
Yes, completely. No, it's very difficult. When people say, Carla, I would love what you are doing, or the life you are having. Nowadays, I understand, and we have to have lots of compassion, that not everyone plays with the same cards, and that not everyone have to do the same that other people are doing. You have to do what you really love, what you really feel it's balanced with your needs and your values, and that doesn't have to be making a travel company or traveling during 1 year and selling everything. Sometimes it's just to wake up in the morning and feel balanced to what you are doing and enjoying a sunrise.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so then you made the decision and you started the company. You probably told a few people. What were your first challenges when you did your first trip? If you can remember some stories, how was that first trip? What challenges came up?
That first trip, of course, when you start something new, I have been guiding for many years for another company, which I still work with. But when these first trips depend 100% of you, you're not only guiding, you're taking care of your crew. I work with a cook, an assistant, and a driver. you are taking care of the menu, you are taking care of the dietary requirements that each one needs, logistics, bookings, payments. You find out that it's not only being in nature and seeing lions, elephants, or tribes. It's also all the back part that you don't see. So I think it was very challenging to understand all the things I had to take care of, all the insurances, all the paperwork, all the things I had to legalize that I had no knowledge of that because I had been guiding. So I think it was very challenging to really sit down and say, okay, this is not a game. This is not, oh, I'm guiding through Africa. This is, I'm building a company, and that means lots of paperwork. That means lots of knowledge that people expect from me, and also not only to take care of that part, but also entertain and have the psychology to and the strength to be able to take care of problems as they go. Because when you are working and guiding through Africa, there are more challenges than guiding through Paris.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot there, right? You mentioned there's the logistics of it, going through multiple countries sometimes, managing all these different personalities with different expectations, right? Different cultures, and then also the environment and the animals. And I mean, in our trip, we had one flat tire. In your last one, you had three. What would you highlight the most as in all of this? What are the highlights of your experience in terms of challenging as well as delightful?
I think like highlights for me during the trip, you have like the emotional challenges, and it's as you were saying, expectations, and then you have the logistic challenges. The emotional challenges for me, they are the more challenges. I mean, with this. Expectations sometimes are very high. People can compare from other trips. Sometimes people travel in groups because they maybe are scared of traveling alone, but at the same time, energies are as they are, and personalities are as they are. So I think that the how do you say, not exit, the that a trip works good depends a lot of the psychology of the guide. I think depends a lot of how he's able to look the needs of each one individually to try to bond as a group. To say, okay, he's been already in another country, so maybe he wants to see leopard. This person has been already, this person is not interested in animals, so I have to make him to enjoy the experience of geology or tribes or landscapes or sunsets. Or this person has always been, has never been here, so everything that comes is he's going to be very grateful. So I have to cheer not only him up so that he enjoys the experience, but to make the others connect with that person as if it was the first time. So I think that the challenge is, if a trip as a group and individually works good, logistic challenges play a lower importance in the trip. That's what I've realized. That taking care of the energy of the group, taking care of the experiences, making everyone enjoy with everyone, bond with everyone, for me, it's what really makes a trip work, more than flat tires, sightings. Because maybe you see a pangolin, that's it's important, but maybe you see one pangolin, and they and depend of you that you are able to make them be grateful because that sighting is very rare. But it depends of you that if they see a elephant, and your attitude and your energy and your explanations, that they can feel the same energy of gratitude compared with an animal that it's not easy to see. So I think that that part of the psychology of the group, it's more important than the logistics.
Right. So obviously, I have to ask a selfish question because in our group you had to deal with 5 vegetarians. So at least there was the food challenge. And otherwise, I mean, it was a great trip, and we saw so many wonderful animals. How was our trip compared to others? You don't have to name other groups, because I know that some people from our group are going to listen to this podcast and they will want to know how did we do?
Your trip was very easy. I mean, it was easy. I think it was easy because, of course, as I told you, and I'm gonna tell now the viewers, on my first trip, I visualized that everything went smooth and easy, and it went. On my second trip, I asked for love, and we had a beautiful experience. We had a proposal in the waterfalls. There were like different families, families with children, families with youngsters, couples that met each other 40 years ago and on a train, and they found love on a train, and they were one. She was from America, he was from Malaga. It was like love stories. And then before that your trip started, I asked for humor. I wanted humor. So it was very funny because I think it was a young group. It was a very nice group. Of course, you were both of like your five of the group were friends. With that makes it easier because you are finding each other after a long time. You're traveling together. That makes it make it easier. The challenge of the English to try to give the explanations in Spanish and English because normally I work with Spanish people. So that was also like a challenge, but at the same time, humor was always present. So, so I think your group of the five I had, humor would be the phrase. As I said, we had a lot of fun. I could really see the difference in attitude from the beginning to the end. The energy that was created. We had a professional humorist from Spain. The girls were very nice. The group was very very nice. So I think humor would be the outstanding. And about the vegetarian story, for me it's not a challenge. I mean, vegetarians nowadays finding food on the countries that we work, it's not a challenge. And the cooks who we work are very very have lots of knowledge to give the best on the food. I think it's more challenging when they are gluten free, for example, that gluten free but allergic, that you have
Hmm.
to take take care of the procedures of the cooking, that they are not mixed products. But even so, at the end, we all eat gluten free nearly during the trip because it's a way of being safe. And people don't even appreciate that because they realize that they can live without gluten. So it's also an experience. They don't like living without bread, but you can find options. So nowadays, the trips and the countries which we travel um, are very very adapted to any dietary requirements. So it's not a big issue, not a big problem.
No, for sure. For us, it wasn't a big issue at all. We had more to eat than we ever do in our normal life, and it was all great. So plenty of seitan, and that was amazing. Let's talk about these all these different countries that you go to, right? So maybe you could tell us the different countries and the different trips you do, and what are the differences that you have to deal with? Because one day you're in Botswana, another day you're in Zimbabwe, another day you're in South Africa, going through cities, going through bush. Yeah, tell us about the geographical and people differences.
Okay, it's true that I've been guiding for many years, so I used to do. Normally, I've now focused on countries because I've realized that us as human beings, many times when we are only 2 or 3 days in a place, we normally check the place. And it's a pity because you lose the opportunity of getting more into the culture, more into the place. So what I realized is that I decided to do only countries. But before I used to do South Africa on the same trip, 29 days trip, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. Movement brings brings lots of experiences. Of course, it brings you also the option to live how it's lived in South Africa in the city. You get to know wine areas. You travel north. You get to know the south of Namibia. then you continue traveling, you get to know the Delta, and you get to know Zimbabwe as the Victoria Falls. But I realized that I like to do countries. So right now I'm focusing on Namibia and Botswana. I used to do Kenya, I do also Tanzania, I do also Uganda. I've been doing many countries, but I've realized that I try to find the experience that brings the guest to enjoy the most on a country. So what I found challenging, for example, in Namibia are the roads, the kilometers. We really, really have lots of movement because places that we want to visit are very, very apart. So that means there's lots of flat tires, there's lots of roads, African massage. You really have to take care where is your next gas station, where are you going to be able to find the food. Those are the things that guests don't really see. But Namibia has lots of challenge through movement, lots of moments of silence and watching the views and seeing how every day is completely different. One day you are in the desert, the next day you are in watching animals, the next day you are watching tribes, the next day you are watching waterfalls. It has lots of movement, but that means also lots of kilometers. Botswana, no network. Namibia has network, Botswana, no network. So your creativity has to be very, very high. You have to really make your way through the country to try to find animals, because at the end, when there's water, there's life. So the more water that Botswana has allows the country to have lots of animals. But that means that we have to go to reserves to find them, and that if you have a flat tire, you're in the middle of nowhere. If you have a problem, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you really have to have your mind stable and relaxed to be able to cope with whatever happens. So, and Zimbabwe, I've always said that it's their people. The character of Zimbabwean people, it's beautiful. My crew is from Zimbabwe. Most of the crew I've worked, it's from Zimbabwe. They have lots of good humor. They are very helpful. They work as a team. So Zimbabwe, I would say, is their people. The ability to communicate and to bond and to look forward for a common need of making the trip work perfectly.
Sweet. I have a couple of questions, but let's talk about people first, and then I want to go to animals. So
Okay.
you have this mission of connecting people to nature, and in all of this changing geographies, even if you're in the same country and looking at different animals and living in pens and living in lodges and so on, the one thing that is constant is the group that is traveling with you. And that's for a short time. And then you have the bigger constant thing, which is your crew and the people you work with that you have built these bonds with over years. How is that experience of kind of getting a group of strangers for 15 days or 30 days and letting them go at the end as friends, potentially engaged partners? How's that experience of connecting those people?
For me, it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. When I was younger, I always used to say that I loved more animals than humans, because sometimes I didn't understand how we're humans so different, and how sometimes humans could harm others, and I had this conflict. But now, after lots of work, lots of mental work, and lots of trying to understand that we come all from the same, but our experiences make us act in a different way, I love meeting people. And I love to, I could even say it's not like, it's a bit horrible, but I love to have an initial idea of them on the first date and finish the trip with a completely different idea. Or even seeing that on the first day they come from their stress, their jobs, with their expectations. They have not bonded yet with the group, so they are a bit like unstable, not knowing what to do, following whatever I say, and not probably the first days enjoying, or others too excited and not reducing their energy. And what I love the most is to see the difference between the beginning of the trip and the end of the trip. That's what I really love, because everyone teaches me. Like every guest teaches me something, and it's beautiful when you travel in a group to see how between them they teach themselves something. Like when you stop and you are able to breathe and to live in a slower rhythm, you are able to connect with yourself and watch yourself. Why are you reacting to this? Why are you? What do you like of this person? Do you like of this person that she's always laughing? Why? Because you would like to laugh more, and then you end up seeing that that person at the end of the trip comes to you and says, "I've been laughing so much, and I don't remember for how long I've not laughed."
Yeah.
So very, very nice to see the beginning of the trip to the end of the trip, to see that at the beginning they are completely strangers. But after 24 hours, because I'm not even 24 hours with my family for so many days, you wake up with them, you have lunch with them. And when you are traveling and you are the guide, they require you for everything. Where are the plates? Where do we wash our hands? Because it's not like common when we are doing camping. They don't know, we don't have a proper tap with water. We have our buckets with our sterilized water, but they've never done this. So it's like, where is the water? Where is this? Where can we sit? Can we leave the shoes out? No, we can't. So it's beautiful to see how being 24 hours with someone for so many days out of the comfort zone and depending initially of you, that makes a very, very close bond.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the connection with nature, right? And the experience that we all go through together kind of in that setting is very special. So I can tell you, for me, I came very excited, also tired on the first day because we had to travel from Berlin, so a bit of an extra trip for us. But throughout the trip, there was joy, there was also sadness, there was also anger, kind of all these questions of, I love the animals, but I'm paying to be driven around in a car looking at animals. And so there's also this emotional experience that the visitors have, and you've been doing this for much longer, so your emotional experience probably is also different and perhaps has changed over the years. So how is this connection to animals for the people that travel with you and for yourself?
What I really love the most, I don't know if it's because of my character, my horoscope, I don't know. But what I really love of this job is that there's no day the same. Like every day is completely different. And when you are talking about animals, every day is completely different. I've done, I don't know how many game drives during my life, and I've never seen the same scene. Or I've never felt the same feeling. It's not like if I visit, and today I don't know why I went with Paris, but I visit the Torre Eiffel. You can probably find different lights, different people around, different vegetation. The flowers have probably bloomed because it's a different season, but the monument is the same. When you're doing game drives, you always find things completely different, and as you go through and you want to get more knowledge. Knowledge is, as I always say, power. So that gives you the option of connecting to the scene and to be able to describe what is happening to your guests as if you were reading a newspaper. It's not only once you've seen an elephant, you want to know more because you are interested in saying, okay, I've seen lots of elephants during the day of today. Why are these alone? Why are these ones together? Why is this one? What is the age of this baby that is breastfeeding? Until when are they breastfeeding? Why are they drinking from the tap and not not from the water hole? Why is one tusk shorter than the other? Why are the ears a bit broken on the edges? So the more you see, the more you recognize, and the more you know, the more you recognize. So being in contact with nature and having someone to guide you, and I'm learning also through all the game drives, because I the more I know, the less I realize I know. So the more I think, it's like, oh, this is new, this is new, this is completely new. I think it was with your group, we had the scene of the elephant, of the dead carcass.
Yes, we did.
It was with your group, right?
We saw a couple of dead carcasses, but you have a story about that. Tell us the
Yes.
story.
Okay. It's, for example, that scene. Like that day, we were searching for lions and we were tracking and looking for the spurs, and we could not see them because there was lots of wind. So we were really facing difficulties to find the. I think it was with your group. I think, I don't know. The story is that we arrived to an area where there was a dead carcass of an elephant, and the dead carcass was not from, like, maybe it had like 1 week. The elephants were surrounding it, making circles and circles and circles, and they were, every time they were making circles, they were with the tusk touching the skin of the elephant and introducing it in the mouth, like if they were smelling and wanted to feel the taste, like wanting to feel the animal. And they were making circles. And it was incredible because that day our interest was looking for the lions, because it was the area of the lions and we had heard that there had been a hunt on the area. And at the end of the trip, normally people have their expectations of finding carnivores. What we both, when we sat down on the fire that night, what we all of us shared was the incredible experience of seeing how the animals felt death, how the energy, we could not talk, but we could feel what they were feeling. We could feel the sorrow, we could feel that they were sad, that at the same time they were respecting the animal that was dead, that they were trying to smell. I started looking to see what was behind that story, and then I found it out that elephants many times during many years still go to the area where the carcass is. Sometimes they get the bones, they introduce them in the mouth, and it's a way. There's the story of that they introduce bones in mouth to get calcium, but in this case, there's a way. It's a way of trying still to keep the bond. It's like their cemetery. It's like what we do when we lose someone, that we still have that attachment to the animal, to the person, that we still visit those graves. So it was incredible to see how these huge mammals, and with this intelligence, do the same. And at the end of the day, we all talked about the scene. What was I like sharing with the people at the end of the day what was the most interesting thing they found today, and they all said that we found the lions, but the lions after that scene went on a second level. They
Yeah.
said, "Okay, they are lions. It's fine. It's perfect. It's beautiful. They were two huge males." But when I was very emotional, and I cried. And when I turned around and told them, "This is incredible what we are feeling," we had like four of the car were crying also. And it was a natural death. It was it was probably problem in the digestion system, because it was not very, very young, but it was already an adult. And it was beautiful to see what nature and animals can bring you back if you are able to stop and just watch, not check.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I have to say, one of the things that I realized immediately was no amount of National Geographic comes close to telling the story of animals except when you see them. And when you see them, you see families, and you see bonds, and you see those connections, and you also see them in the cycle of life, right? So unfortunately, this elephant ritual was not in our group, but in our group we did see a couple of younger elephants who were dead, and and I learned that the lions, in the first case it was lions, and the second case was the leopard with her cub that were eating that they eat the soft parts first. So there's this intense familial bond between each species of animals, and then they're part of the cycle of life where one day you're a majestic elephant and people are admiring you, and the other day another thing is eating your face. But that's part of the cycle of life, and
Yes.
that's what keeps the whole ecosystem in balance. So what for me this was really in a way it changed something in me. It made me connect with the animals in a different way. How did that connection change for you from when you started? You know, maybe not even as a guide, but from your first trips. How did you view animals back then, and how do you view them now?
It's very funny because it's something I realize with when I'm traveling with guests that they have never seen African animals. That the first day they want to stop, although the animal is like very far away, and they get aggressive. It's very funny because it's like stop, and it's like don't worry, they are very far away, and we are gonna see them closer. But it's like no, stop, and they make a picture that they're not gonna never enjoy. But I've been there. That's why I recognize that because I've stopped for a zebra 2 miles away because I wanted the picture of my first zebra. What I've realized is that through time, you stop taking pictures. Through time, you stop watching, just watching, and you connect all your senses. You connect your smell, you connect your hearing, and it's incredible because once you take a step forward and you just not only try to look and to find them through game drives, but you try to smell them and recognize, okay, smells to elephant, there must be an elephant around. Or you hear sounds, you hear flapping of ears, you hear an impala making an alarm call. You go a step further. I love walking safaris. It's not allowed on many countries, but South Africa area has that opportunity. And it's incredible because that really connects you to nature. You are walking, it feels like Avatar when they are saying you make lots of sound. It's true that when your life depends on the amount of sound you make, you find the way of not making sound anymore. So you really find the way of where do you put your feet, how gentle you are. Better not to put your feet on a branch that can break because that can make a sound. So walking safaris and turning off the engine and connecting to nature and trying to hear, I think it's what made me take a step forward toward just watching, but that step forward was towards that smelling, that hearing, those birds that guide you where those animals are, those birds that are always bonded to those animals, and you hear that bird, you will always find a beaver mammal because they take their cheeks out. Those birds that you find them on top of the tree, which means there's a predator underneath. Those impalas that makes that alarm call, which means that okay, this is a predator, or they are trying to flirt with our impalas, but I'm not hearing. But where is the sound coming? The smell, where's the smell coming? How is the wind moving? Where should I put myself to try not to try to get closer without making the animal realize that there's someone there? So I think that has been my step forward, not only to look, but also to feel.
Yeah, absolutely, and to connect. So I definitely had many moments where I was like, okay, just shut up, shut out all the thoughts, put the phone back into the pocket, and just watch and feel that the sense of the animal, because it is a being. It's there. It's in its habitat, and we are kind of encroaching. Sometimes with respect, sometimes we forget that, right? Sometimes we get too close. And there's a lot of lessons there. Like I said, seeing the cycle of life is one thing. Seeing animals not as herds but as families is another. When we were in the desert, it was the immensity of the universe. Realizing that we don't just live in flats, but actually we live on this giant ball of fire that's spinning around with a bit of a crust on it, and then there's more and more and more. Um, and then we were at the Victoria Falls and just experiencing that, the power of those falls, kind of puts you in your place and in a very awe-inspiring way. And you have had millions of those moments, but I will limit the question and say, what did nature, the animals, the work that you do taught you this season?
That I should continue giving my best. That it was not luck, that I was not lucky with the groups, that I've really worked on that the experience was excellent. And when you want to give your best, that's what it has really taught me. I've learned, of course, that I want to still continue growing my knowledge on animals, and that it's beautiful to each time understand more. But when you have done 5 trips and you've been guiding for 4 months, and all the trips, people end up the trip happy and with a different click towards nature, towards themselves. They've come back to their essence, and they've stopped, as you were saying, all the noise, and then they've realized that they are those ones also. That sometimes we are overwhelmed with all our responsibilities, production, fears, but when we stop and we listen to ourselves, it's like, I was funny, I forgot to laugh, or I'm walking so quickly during my life that I had not realized the amount of stars we have on top. Like we lived on the Makati Pans. Sometimes those stars are always there, of course. It's more difficult to see them when there's light. But we always see stars wherever we are. Sometimes it's a matter of stopping and looking upwards. So sometimes it's a matter not only physically of stopping and looking at the stars, but of stopping and looking inward and saying, okay, I've been there, I've lived this moment. You don't have to go to Africa to do that. Sometimes it's just in a walk, sometimes it's just in a bad experience. But it's to say I've lived that experience. So this experience has brought me this, and that's what I've realized this season, that it's not been luck. I've really worked for it to happen, and that I must continue giving my best, because I really enjoy, and I think I make people enjoy the experience.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You're an amazing guide, and the enjoyment is there. And more than the enjoyment, honestly, I've done plenty of meditation. Of course, I'm no master by any stretch of imagination or measure. And I've practiced yoga, and I've been lucky to have a lot of plant medicine ceremonies behind me. And those are periods where there's a lot of reflection and there's a lot of inner kind of clarity of seeing, let's say, at the very least. And then you come back home, and there's always this period of adjustment, and you integrate some of those changes, and for others, you have to do some more work. How is it for you to come back home after these trips?
Difficult. It's difficult. It's very difficult because phone, for example, one of my biggest challenges is that when we are so connected to technology that they're having a forced ban of data, having a forced time to be able to go on the phone. That's for me the most challenge, because when you are not doing anything with your hands, it's because you are focusing on what is happening on your surroundings. So to go back, the first month is always challenging. I try to go back to, I try to reduce my stress of suddenly getting into the wheel of production, and so next year I have to do this, I have to do that. trying to all my accounts, because life is about enjoying, but it's about also putting all
Also,
your accounts,
Texas.
taxes, and all those things. So I try to listen to myself, to give myself time, because I think it's very important to be honest and to say, okay, Carla, it's fine. Do not have to do everything tomorrow, or to try to balance that will, and try to not be very, very linked to technology. But also I try to focus always as I come back on exercise. Always. Exercise, nice conversations, nature, my family, my dog, my plants, and my house. But I have this transition, like everyone has when they come back. But of course, after so many months with very little sound, or very little connection to the world, when you go back, it's challenging to be able not to suddenly end up on the wheel. All the things that are happening on the world, the energy is very, very tense. So when you are isolated on your bubble, to go back, for me, what it works me the most, it's nice conversations, nice energy, and exercise.
Do you hear from people who traveled with you, calling you or writing to you saying, Carla, I'm having trouble adjusting back to normal life?
Everyone. Sometimes everyone experience that. Everyone. Even I don't like when they sell trips, when they offer trips as Africa transforms you. Sometimes transformation is always good, but sometimes I have beautiful guests that have beautiful lives, and they just travel because it's their gift to get to know other new places. It's not in a way of looking for my life to change, because as I said, you don't have to travel to do that. Sometimes you just have to stop in your house and cry, break, and start again. You don't have to go out. But it's true that sometimes people don't communicate it as that much, but I've got others that at the end, I'm what links them to where they were happy. So keeping in contact with me is like keeping still the essence of Africa in their life. So they
Yeah.
share with me, they tell me how they are going. We still meet each other when we are here in Spain. We make small short trips. I'm planning to make small short trips with the different groups, like to see each other, to share. So I think not 100%, because at the end, not everyone is able to communicate, or they just, other people are very, very used to stopping the wheel, and when they come back, get on top of the wheel and run. But there are others that they need their process, and they communicate with me, telling me what they are going through, what they've realized, all the changes they want to apply, or just in a way of keeping in touch with me, because that brings them back to nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess first trips are always much more remarkable, right? So
So,
this was my first trip. So for me, this was as strong as any retreat I've ever been to. So nature's medicine, the African air and the African earth and the sounds are a potent agent of change and transformation as well. I wanted to ask, you have dogs and you have had dogs for quite some time, and you see all these animals out in nature. And how has your relationship changed, or how is your relationship with your dogs when you come back and see them?
my dogs, they are all shelter dogs. So all of them, the three of them that I have, went through difficult experiences, because they had suffered, they were abandoned, they were punished. And so when I come back, our bond is very, very strong. I have three, but I've got a very, very strong bond with two of them, and the other one bonded with my mother. And he loves me, but he's bonded with my mother. So I'm very, very lucky, because when I leave, my mother comes to my place, and she's with the dogs. She goes, she takes them out, she's with them all the time. But I really find that when I come back, it's like if nothing had changed. Nothing can have changed. They live the moment and the present in a beautiful and remarkable way. That when I come back, they are very happy to see me, but they bring me the toy like, you owe me time of play.
Of course.
You owe me time of play. And at the same time, when you see this kind of dogs, right? The dogs that are taken care of, the dogs that are not only taking care of shelter and food, but of how they are, if they have anxiety, how to cope with the anxiety. When you go back to certain countries where those dogs live on the streets and they've never been pet, it's incredible when you act with them as you would do with your own one. They react like if they had always been pet. They are, of course, depending on their experience. Sometimes there are some that they have received so much pain that they don't understand love. But there are others that maybe they've pet them a bit, and it's beautiful to see how they look for the love. Like you call them and they are like, can I go? Can I go? So to come back home and see them and learn of wild animals and learn of domestic animals allows me to see on wild animals lots of domestic animals behaviors, like those values, those bonds, when a female meets a male, when the cubs take care of the mom take care of the cubs. Wild dogs, for example, that bond that you with a wild dog. So it's incredible to see that they are very, very similar in certain ways, and they are very, very different in others. But it's beautiful to see how, dependently if it's domestic or wild, it's beautiful always to observe, and these ones are very happy when I'm here.
Yeah, it's a joy to have animals around. They really can bring you back to the moment, and just the honest reality of life, that when there's love, there can be love, and when there's hunger, there can be hunger. But the rest can be thrown aside. I want to still ask a few more questions, but maybe a slightly serious one. I don't know if why it should be serious, but given the nature of the world, it sounds like that, which is how is it to travel and guide in Africa as a woman? How has that experience been for you?
I would say that 90% perfect. I've always found challenges, but it depends a lot on the culture, and depends a lot on my attitude. As I said, it's not only taking care of guests, but it's also taking care of the crew. There are people that are very used to working with women, and there are people that they have their issues and they are not so good working with women. So what I found out after lots of years working with men, because I've always worked with men, and I come from a world where I've always worked with women. Because in the pharmacy I had all were women, but what I found out is that it's always as you communicate with them that you will make them work good with you. I think it's a thing of teamwork. It's a thing of how you tell them the things. It's a thing of giving each one their position and their value, knowing that there are certain things that I have to take care of, but letting them know that things that I take care of, they don't have to take care of. So it's a way of, okay, I'm the boss, but thanks to this, you can enjoy. And you
Yeah.
take care of these other things. And thanks to this, I trust you and we are a team. And I take care of the good energy, I take care of the good vibes of the group, I take care of a good salary, I take care of good tips. So it's true that it's always depending of the country. Of course, south of Africa, it's different than north of Africa. It's always depending of how many times they work with women, the age. I find sometimes challenging being a woman because, of course, sometimes people get confused and they try to flirt with you, and you have to have lots of psychology to put that through. But at the same time, it's beautiful to be able to communicate with people. For example, I had once a driver. Now he's a very, very good friend. But when we started working together, he hated me. Like, I don't not hate. Well, yes, he hated me. He was very young. His energy was very masculine, a bit of ego. And I had to tell him how to go to a place. I could not tell him, tomorrow we are going to this place and we have 350 kilometers to arrive to this place. I had to tell him, as tomorrow we are going through this road to this place, as you must know, or like trying to let him know that I know I want to go this way, but I cannot tell you to go this way because you're going to get offended. At the end of after lots of exercise and lots of trying to find the way, now we are very good friends. And when I tell everyone, like, no, I'm working with this one, they are like, what? And I found the gap. And at the end, it's because everyone needs to feel loved. And when you are able to give love to that person and you don't know the wound that that person has with woman, with mom, with relationships, with other bosses, sometimes we pay the price of how they have treated them on other situations. So it's just a matter of time to prove them that with me it's not the case. So I love working with people, so it's not a challenge. I don't see myself as a challenge, as a woman, a problem.
No, you're definitely not the problem. And beautifully said, right? Standing your ground, being clear, but also being kind goes a long way, for sure. Your slogan is traveling in essence. And now you have been traveling, and I can definitely testify that our experience was nothing like I could never categorize it as a commercial experience. It was a beautiful experience, traveling with friends, with people, and connecting with nature. What else does this slogan mean to you, and what does it mean for the future? What does it mean for the next few trips, for the next few years?
Traveling in essence was created as a phrase I used to tell to myself, like saying, when I'm in my essence, I do exercise. When I'm in my essence, I'm happy. When I'm in my essence, I listen to myself, I prioritize myself, I put limits, I give my best. So traveling in essence was a way of what was a way of transmitting, or what I was a way of trying to make people go through all the processes I had been through until I had reached to my essence. So I'm just putting my knowledge to people for them to try to bond or connect in what I'm not going to tell you what you have to feel. I'm going to just put the experience as it was, as I put it to myself. So when I put it to myself, I realized I felt this, and this. So I'm traveling lessons is a way of, I'm going to put experiences for you to connect with whatever you need. And that's my mission. It's not only of showing Africa and not only of getting knowledge of Africa, but also of finding that essence on yourself and not what surrounds you.
Beautiful. Have you ever been afraid of being attacked by animals, or have you ever been attacked by animals?
No, I've not been attacked by animals. No. As I said before, knowledge is power. And animals are very intelligent. And if you know what are their needs, what are their boundaries, you can really avoid accidents. You can really avoid risky situations. I mean, I think it's more dangerous roads than animals. Of course, there are animals' experiences with other humans can make you go through situations that you don't deserve, although you went you gave your best and you really knew how to act. There are certain situations that's a 10%. Animal that they've poached their colleague, of course, he's gonna be very very angry with humans. So probably you will pay that situation. But if you are able to understand, put boundaries, be ethical on your game drives, understand that we are also predators and that we have this energy and this confidence and this power that put front in a certain moment can really help you, and to stay back in a certain moment, being intelligent, can really save you also. I think lots of things can be avoided. It's a thing of knowledge. And also connecting and understanding the situation and saying, okay, this animal is angry. Why is angry? Because the female is on heat. So let's keep distance. This elephant is angry. Why is angry? Because the elephant now is in the mast time. And the mast time, the testosterone is very high, and you can see it because of the swelling glands close to the eyes. Okay, so let's keep distance. So it's a way of understanding the situation and saying, okay, this crocodile is outside of the water. It's dangerous? No. Outside of the water? No. I would not wash my clothes in the river. But if it's outside of the water, even impalas go close. So once you understand and have the knowledge to interpret what is happening, it's more difficult that things happen. And always respect, turn off the car. And if there's certain moments where the animal is interested, like for example elephants, they are interested on the vehicle, there are lots of signs before an attack. Lots of signs. Opening of the ears, sounds, tail. There are lots of signs before the elephant's attacks. And there are lots of signs and boundaries and limits that you can make for the elephant also to realize, hey, you are big, but I'm also big and I'm strong and I'm intelligent. So it's maybe a tapping in the car. That sound can bring an alarm to say, okay, I'm not gonna mess around, because although I'm a youngster and my testosterone is high, this person knows what he's doing. So it's always a thing about knowledge.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And definitely animals are not as crazy like us. And they're not, oftentimes, at least in the wild, they're not carrying around old stressors. Because that's where people often attack, right? There's old traumas and stressors that we carry around, and then we're not able to be fully in the moment and act out of this old conditioning. Talking about elephants and cars, and one of the things, like I said, in our trip, there were many beautiful moments. There were also moments where I felt sad and angry. And one of the moments that kind of hit me was as we were exiting Moremi Savuti, there were a couple of caterpillar machines cutting down some trees and adding another lane for the road for the vehicles to go through. And there was just this moment where I was like, okay, this has all been great, and Botswana is doing an amazing job at taking care of the animals. But because more of us are coming, more roads need to be built, which means there will be more vehicles traveling here, more people coming here, more trash will need to be taken care of, and kind of animals would be bothered a bit more, let's say. That was my feeling that, true or not, maybe they were just adding a new lane and the old lane would be destroyed, who knows. How is travel changing Africa in positive or negative ways, and how do you relate to that?
I think traveling, this is a big topic.
I saved it for last for that.
No, I love it. And I think it's very interesting. I think it's very interesting, your question. But it's a very big topic because it's so wide. Every country, inside every country, there are different national parks, and there are national parks, like local national parks, and they are private national parks. And inside those national parks, everyone manages in a completely different way. So I think that the responsibility of tour companies and tour guides is to find out what is behind those projects, those national parks. What is the amount of money invested in conservation? What is the amount of money invested on anti-poaching? What is the salary of the local people? How much amount of poaching is there in that area? High poaching, low salaries. This is like this. What are the ethics of the guides that work on that park? What are the values of the parks for those guides? So I think that's a responsibility also of the guide companies to really, to travel companies, to really prove and to really stand out, saying we are very ethical. We're gonna not interfere on the scene, because not everything it's worth it for a picture, and to really stand out for conservation and for nature. There are certain countries that, and nowadays with technology, you cannot hide. Before, lots of things were done, and for the picture they could really interfere in the scene, and the lion had a failure towards hunting that animal, but that meant a lot of waste of energy. But I think it's very interesting and very important that nowadays with technology, things that are shared towards how things should be done, helping all the animals, all the guests, tourism to conserve, but at the same time to share, but without interfering. So tourism brings beautiful things. Each country manages tourism in a different way. I think Botswana is a beautiful country towards how they are managing. Not and there's no country that makes it perfect, but I think that Botswana has no fences that makes animals to be able to move, and I think that's beautiful, because animals must move towards looking for food resources, looking for water. So Botswana makes it very good towards conservation, but that means there are more animals, there's poaching, there's always going to be a challenge. But I think that tourism has always, like us as guests, must be responsible of where we are traveling. It's not always worth the picture. Not feeding animals, not riding animals. Nowadays, there's so much knowledge with a click that it's just a matter of us as guests, because I'm tour guide, but I'm also a guest when I travel to other places, saying, this normal that when I go inside the water, lots of turtle comes, and I have the beautiful picture. Okay, why are these turtles coming? Okay, they are feeding them. If they are feeding them, these animals are not migrating, so these animals are putting the eggs on the beach that is being stopped, walked on by tourists. So it's always a way of, okay, this elephant is allowing me to ride him. Is this normal? Would your dog allow you to ride him? Would a horse, without going through the process of education, and it's a domestic animal, would allow you to ride him? We have to be more critics in towards what we are doing. So I think us as guests and us as tour companies must really be responsible and stand out and tell our local guides it's enough. We don't need to go off-road and push the animal to get the perfect picture.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I'm glad that you share this now, and you share this during your travels, and you also share it through your Instagram posts pretty often. Were there also people who inspired you or taught you a lot? This is the moment to say a public thanks to them or for your team.
Everyone I meet, it's inspiring. Everyone I meet. When I was very little, I used to love the passion Steve Irwin used to put when he was
Yeah.
his documentaries. It was another time. There were crazy things that nowadays he would not do, but everyone evolves. There are things that probably when I started guiding, I was not so conscious, so I would have done things the other way. The most important thing is that we evolve and we do things differently as we would have done it before if we have the knowledge to do it better. But Steve Irwin was a great was a person. It really inspired me of how much passion he put on what he was doing. And everyone I meet, there's always not famous people sometimes, and I've realized that the most interesting people are not on Instagram.
For sure.
The most interesting people are not out there talking about their lives. They are just living their lives. And they are inspiring because when you meet them and you find and they tell you their lives, it's like, wow. And they are focused on living, not on sharing, because they are from another school. Social media has to work and things have to work, but there are so many inspiring people that have no social medias and and they tell you their stories and you hear them how much passion they have, and it's incredible.
It is, absolutely. So, last question. If you had, and I borrowed this from Tim Ferriss, if you have a giant billboard where you could put any message or put up a picture or run a little video, and billions of people would walk past it and see it, what would your message be?
Wow. What would my message be? I would just say, give your best, being honest to what your heart feels. And the scale is so wide and so small. Sometimes we don't have to
Amazing.
do important things. We just have to be honest to what our heart feels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I hope many more people will listen to this and do that more often. And if they need inspiration, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. I'm trying to give my best. No, it's very easy because my name is everywhere. I mean, Instagram is under my name, Carla Feuerriegel. My website is under my name. And I will be posting my future trips once I'm back to out of the wild and I'm back to work mode. So I will be designing the new trips and offering the new trips for next year. So they can find me under my name.
Perfect. I'll put those links in the show notes as well. Carla, this has been an amazing conversation, and I hope we'll have many more with or without recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alec. Really, it was been amazing, and I felt very, very good, very comfortable.